November 27, 2019. Joe here at Simple Life Show. Appreciate everybody for joining me today. There was a recent poll that just recently came out over the last few days from Rasmussen that is making Democrats absolutely lose their minds. We'll get into that in a moment. Recently, also, Anna Navarro, who is a quote-unquote Republican strategist, I believe that she is just a rhino. And if you don't know what a rhino is, I think everyone knows what a rhino is. They're a fake Republican. They are trying to play both sides. She is a bobblehead pundit, and she doesn't really know what she's talking about half the time. And she is just a spectacle every time that she gets on the TV. You can't miss her. She's always on The View. She's on CNN. She's rarely on Fox. But she is always spewing her hate for Trump and how much of a racist he is and all this kind of stuff. That is the only thing literally she talks about. If you do not know who Anna Navarro is, here is a brief refresher.
Let me tell you something that probably doesn't happen to you. I get stopped by children who are afraid of going to school. I get stopped by Muslims who are afraid of going out in the street and having the scarves torn off their heads. I don't care what he does. If he doesn't want to succeed as a president of the United States, that's perfect. If he wants to unite this country, he should use the bully pulpit he has now. You know what's beautiful about America? That there is not one single label of Americanism. America means loving your country. America means sacrificing for your country. America means putting your country first. It does not mean what language you came here speaking. It does not mean what holiday you celebrate. It means patriotism, love of country, and shared values. It has nothing to do with culture.
I more or less 100% agree with everything you've just said. I'm not disagreeing with that. My concern is that we have, with all this business of identifying communities, you know, this community, that community, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, with all the emphasis on that, that it keeps people from assimilating into the larger American culture.
Nobody does more identity politics than Donald Trump.
You just said that the president demonizes immigrants, and this is another sort of sleight of hand that the left loves to try to put over on the American people. He has never demonized immigrants. He is against illegal aliens. He is against breaking and entering into our country. He's against a lawless border. He loves legal immigration. As a matter of fact, quite literally so. He's married.
Steve, I have asked you in the past. Let me tell you this. No, wait, let me say this.
Go ahead.
I have asked you in the past, and I will ask you again today, to stop referring to me as left. Let me remind you that I was a Republican when Donald Trump was a Democrat. I was a Republican when Donald Trump was an independent.
You're a very leftist
I was a Republican in supporting.
Okay, so that really just kind of sums up Anna Navarro. She is a leftist Republican. She is a rhino at best. I think that the rhinos are probably in an order of a better than what Anna Navarro is. I think that she is just a never Trumper. I don't think that I think that whenever Trump was talking about illegal immigrants, that she's a Latino, and she identifies more with the Latinos and the Mexicans than she would with anybody else. She makes that very clear every time she talks. She's always talking about the group of the Latinos, and that's it. That's all she really talks about. There was also a clip of 7 years ago that I don't think that she really wants anyone to see. But she is in a panel. She's kind of having a discussion with two other men, and they're discussing the problems of the Republican Party and how they're not able to reach the minority, specifically Latinos and the Black Americans as well. So we'll go ahead and roll that one.
But if I could jump in, the previous statement, the professor said that the majority of racists are Republican. There is no evidence of that, and there are many policies on the Democratic side which could be deduced to be racism in its purest form, particularly from white liberals. When it comes to outreach and getting involved in the cities, part of the Republican problem is, yeah, they're not involved in those areas, they do not go into those areas, but what's more important is that they do not have a special message for special people added.
So she really didn't speak as much during that clip, obviously. But she was president. This was 7 years ago. Obama was still president at the time. And the problem is that there just wasn't enough outreach from the Republicans to the minority communities. So we have a problem there when we have a lot of different minorities who are being told what to believe over and over and over again. I think a lot of this is breaking and a lot of it is broken over the last 3 years. Trump is not a perfect person. People who voted for Trump did not vote for him because he was a preacher, because he was a good person, even because he could talk well. They voted for Trump because they wanted to take the ideology of being an American back. Okay, this has nothing to do with race. The only people that are bringing up race all the time are the Democrats, because the whole idea of the liberal philosophy is to break people into groups, because everyone in the eyes of a liberal Democrat, they are all these groups are being marginalized in one way, and that all has to do with racism. It all has to do with white supremacy. And anytime that you get away from that whole ideology and that whole foundation of the liberal mindset, that is when everything starts to fall apart. And we are starting to see that, and we have been seeing that over the last few years. It's just getting more and more and more. Now, Anna Navarro actually recently put out a tweet, and it's kind of wrecked her here, because there was actually a tweet from Rasmussen where, well, let's just actually go down here. This is from ALX. The new polls here says Black American support for Trump, Emerson is 34.5% and Rasmussen is 34%. That is amazing. And I have checked the recent polls, because there's daily snapshots every single day. It's hovering somewhere around 30%. That is unheard of, because even when Bush and all the other Republicans, when they won their presidency, they didn't get anywhere close to this type of percentage. And a lot of people, not just black Americans, but white Americans and Latino Americans in general, are waking up to a lot of the lies that have been perpetrated. And I'm not saying the Republicans are innocent, and I'm not saying anyone else is, I'm not trying to single out one person or one group. I am just saying that the whole idea of patriotism and conservatism is really taking back hold again. It's actually a rebellion against the government complex and the big government complex that is surely starting to take over this country, and it's wanting to take over this country, and people are actually starting to fight back just by using their own minds and thinking for themselves. There is a lot of Black Americans that are, and especially a lot of reformed Democrats, just like myself, that have woken up to a lot of this stuff that just really doesn't make any sense anymore. We're not going in the right direction, and just people in general are waking up, and that's why we are seeing more of a higher percentage of Black American support for President Trump. There are a lot of different examples of this. So you have a lot of different conservative pundits that are out there that are speaking out there. Brandon Tatum is one. Candace is one as well. That's just off the top of my head. They're very, very popular conservative thinkers, and they are bringing in a lot of Black American support for the president, because they are starting to think for themselves and not in a Democratic or liberal mindset. The same thing can be said for the white Americans who are who are just as propagandized from the liberals. It's Americans as a whole are waking up, and we're all leaving the proverbial plantation. And I'm sorry for having to use that, but that's really what it is. It's slavery of thought. And we really need to honestly get past all this political correctness mumbo jumbo, because all that really does is it prevents freedom of thought. It prevents stream of thought. It prevents new ideas. It's very pervasive to that. It's very constraining. You're not able to really think clearly when you have to think about little things that you say and whether it's going to be offensive or not to this group or that group. And that is just another example of how everything is just becoming very strangled. We're living in a strangled society, and people have had enough of it. And you see more and more of this stuff happening. So after this ALX put this tweet out on November 24th, a couple days ago, 3 days ago, Anna Navarro has to chime in. Obviously, zero chance that this is accurate. Zero. The poll must have only been conducted at the homes of Ben Carson, Kanye, that sheriff guy, you know which one we're talking about, with the hat, and those two cubic zirconia and polyester spandex ladies. I mean, was she literally on crack when she wrote this? I mean, some of the stuff I really don't know. I mean, thank God for the First Amendment, because if there was a law against stupidity, then many people would be in jail. And this is just an example of the liberal mindset run amok. And it's just spewing forth nonsense at this point. Anna Navarro, this is probably one of the most racist tweets I've ever seen in my life. Yes, have I seen racist tweets from Republicans and all other types of people? Absolutely. This stuff shouldn't. You know, we should be more concerned with ideas. Now, the funny part is that Democrats are really obsessed with polls. I think that we're all obsessed with polls that lean towards what we want to believe. It's a type of psychology thing, you know. It's anything that verifies what we already believe, then that is what we're going to naturally tend towards. Now, this one, she could have just says that 0 chance is accurate, 0. She could have just left it at that, and that would have been fine. I'm like, okay, fine. Show me another poll or something. You know, polls are just polls. Yeah, are they fallible? Sure, absolutely. We've seen all the polls from Hillary Clinton saying that she had a 99% chance of winning. I happen to agree with a lot of these other, a lot of Rasmussen and a lot of polls as well, but of course I am a little bit biased as well. However, the reason why I think this is more accurate than Anna Navarro would probably want you to believe is that simply we are in the 3rd year, going in the 4th year of Donald Trump's presidency. We have seen a lot of positive things for minorities. We have seen a lot of positive things for this country in general. And that is why we have seen, we're going to naturally see more of a support in the minority community. And this is just something that is going to naturally happen, whether Anna Navarro likes to admit it or not. Now, I went actually to Rasmussen Reports on Twitter just to verify all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, maybe this was made up. No. Here 4 hours ago, oh my, says Rasmussen Reports, Trump had 33% approval among non-white adults in the mid-November NPR PBS NewsHour Marist poll. A Rasmussen poll indicated 34% among likely black voters. The Epoch Times says approval of President Trump rose to 34.5% among black registered voters in a recent Emerson polling. The number is notable because only 8% of blacks voted for Trump in 2016. This sounds reasonable as well. When Trump was running for president, blacks didn't really know what he was all about. And I don't blame minorities for voting Democrat, because that is just simply what has been, kind of ingrained into our own actions. I was a lifelong Democrat. I voted Democrat all the way down, blue no matter what. And then I had to start thinking about, what am I really voting for? What do I really want to see out of this country? I mean, I'm voting for all these Democrats. Are they really doing anything? Are they in line and step with my ideologies and what my beliefs are? And when I finally realized that this was not the case, that's when I changed. And you see a lot of minorities actually, doing this as well. And a lot of them actually did it long before I did, And that is what kind of helped, get me woke, as it were, and help me start to understand the error of my thinking. Now, I am not, like I said, I would more or less consider myself an independent, a libertarian, than I would consider myself a conservative. I think that boxes myself in too much. Now, if a Democrat comes around and they're in line and step and all this stuff with what I believe, absolutely, I'll vote for another Democrat. But I just don't think that's happening. I think a lot of Democrats are just hopping on this boat of socialism, of this neo-Marxism type of philosophy, and it's very dangerous for the Republic in which we live. It's very troublesome for the Constitution, in which binds this country together. So until a Democrat actually comes out as an independent and actually has better ideas, then I'm not even looking at another Democrat. And I think that's really what's happening with a lot of the minority as well. They are just fed up with it and they want something different. So until next time, this is Joe with Simple Life. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.